Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us to Experiencing the Land of Jesus. Last week, we talked about the Holy City, and we actually went into the city of Jerusalem, which is
Yep.
Paul's absolute favorite place to be. And we went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which actually will have Golgotha and also the tomb of
The
where
tomb,
Jesus
all
was.
under one giant church.
He sees it and he just tears
Yeah.
up. It's just his favorite place that he just loves to
Yeah.
go to.
So we talked about the old city walls last week. Today we're going to talk about the city of David. Now, when you hear the city of David, what do you think of? I mean, a lot of people think of Bethlehem, right?
Right.
Because Bethlehem is where David was born. We know that Bethlehem is where David was anointed as king of Israel. But the city of David is actually the old Jerusalem. Now, when we talk about the old city of Jerusalem today, we think of the old city within the walls of Jerusalem. And we shared with you last week a little bit about the old city. Today, the old city from the Jaffa Gate all the way to the Temple Mount is about 1 mile wide. It is divided into 4 different quadrants. You have the Christian quarter, the Armenian quarter, the Muslim quarter, and then the Jewish quarter. And then a large portion of it is taken by the Temple Mount as well. And we always enter in through the Jaffa Gate, as we shared with you. That's the gate of the friend, Abraham, because Jaffa Gate faces the town of Hebron, which is where Abraham was buried. Today, when you walk into Jaffa Gate, it kind of splits the Christian quarter and the Armenian quarter. Just a bunch of street side cafes and well, that was where the Praetorium was, which we'll delve into that a little bit later on as well.
Lots of little shops that you could go into, and they sell their wares and
Yeah.
little trinkets and shoes, whatever you want, you can find it there.
Yeah. So when we go into the old city, most of the time we spend in the Christian quarter because that's where some of our most important sites are. And we spend a lot of time in the Jewish quarter as well because the Jewish quarter faces the western wall, and you can also see the Mount of Olives from the Jewish quarter. And there's really not a whole lot in the Armenian quarter. There's a lot of residences in the Armenian quarter. And in the Muslim quarter, we don't go a whole lot into the Muslim quarter. Just a bunch of touristy knick-knack shops and that kind of stuff. And we just never kind of really work our way over that way. We kind of stay in the Christian quarter and in the Jewish quarter. But when we think of the old city, this is what we're thinking of. We're thinking of the walled city of Jerusalem. But actually, the first Jerusalem was south of this, and it was called the city of David. You can find it in 2 Samuel chapter 5, where David conquers the city. He takes it from the Jebusites, which were a Canaanite people, and he calls it the city of David. It's Jerusalem. It's between 2 different tribes. David makes it not only the city of David, but he makes it the capital for Israel. He kind of united the 2 kingdoms there. And he calls it Zion. It's the first time that we see Zion used in the Old Testament. We're not sure what the meaning of Zion is, but it is Zion. He called it Mount Zion. And so the first Mount Zion is the city of David. And but it's just kind of over the years, it's just kind of expanded, right? And we talked about that last week. There's one neighborhood area that's called Zion, and then the whole area would be called Zion as well. But if you look at this map right here, the city of David, that's the Temple Mount. The city of David is south of the Temple Mount. And actually, the Temple Mount sits at a higher elevation than the city of David as well. And so here's a map of the city of David. You can see the Temple Mount with the Dome of the Rock, the large gold dome. That is where Solomon's temple was built. So that would have been the epicenter of Jewish worship in the 1st century. And then just south of that, in the outlined in red, you see the city of David. Now, the city of David, or the original Jerusalem, was actually sited on 3 different sides by valleys. On the eastern side, you have the Kidron Valley, and then on the western side, you have the Central Valley, which then meets into the Hinnom Valley. And so the city of David actually was a great fortress. It was defensible, right? It sat high. It was surrounded by valleys. Its weakest point was to the north, where the temple sat. That sits at a higher elevation. And actually, every time Jerusalem was defeated all throughout history, they were defeated from the north. The enemies came in from the north. And so just if you take a look at this picture, you can see the Temple Mount there. The western wall is on the west side of the Temple Mount. And then just to the south of it is the city of David. Now, if we were to take a map of what the city of David looked like back in the day, this would be it. On the right-hand side of your screen, that would be the Kidron Valley. And then so you can see how high it sat up. The city of David, actually when David took it, what did we say, was 13 acres?
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it was 13 acres. Only about 3,500 people could live there at the time of David. During King Solomon's reign, the city expanded, especially going down the western slope. And so the city got larger and larger throughout history. But if you were to take a look at the Kidron Valley today, this is what it looks like from the Temple Mount, or at the foot of the Temple Mount. If you were to go down into the Kidron Valley and look up, I love this picture. We are actually down in the Kidron Valley and took this picture looking up. That is the top of the southeast corner of the Temple Mount. You can just see how high it is, and pictures just don't do justice. They really
Never
don't.
do.
And back in the first century, the Kidron Valley was anywhere between 20 and 25 feet deeper than what it is today. Throughout the years, just the rubble and just the sediment and just dirt kind of filled it in a little bit. And so the Kidron Valley back in the days of Jesus was much deeper. So the Kidron Valley extends about 20 miles all the way down to the Dead Sea, and it goes down, it descends some 4,000 feet. So if you were to stand at the base of the temple today, or the Temple Mount, and look down into the Kidron Valley, you can just see how steep it is. So any opposing army trying to defeat the city of Jerusalem, well, they literally had an uphill battle. And so the Israelites held the upper ground, and so it would have been very difficult to defeat them. Okay, so when you're looking at the city of David, today, the city of David is kind of surrounded by this Arab village of Siloam. And Siloam is the Arabic name for Siloam. The Pool of Siloam is located there. And when you look at the village, the Arab village that's there, you can kind of see, at the bottom of the screen, you see those squares down, it seems like in the foundation. You have any idea what those are?
I do.
Yeah.
They're tombs.
They're tombs. So those are ancient tombs. People were never buried within the city walls. They were always buried outside. And so this is like looking down the Kidron Valley at this town. And obviously there's a lot of historical things that are there. And the archaeologists want to get in there. And this is a real point of contention today. As you can tell, the village of Siloam is really kind of run down. It's older, it's dilapidated. And the archaeologists want to get in there and dig into it because it's the original Jerusalem.
Right.
But it's also people's residences, and so they can't. I know they've done some excavation where they kind of went into the tombs and dug around underneath the ground, but they really can't get in and dig around. But if you look at the city of David today, here we are standing at the city of David, and we're looking up to the Temple Mount. Now remember that the Temple Mount was built on the threshing floor of David. David purchased this plot of land. He gave it to his son Solomon, and God gave Solomon the command to build the temple. And so Solomon built the temple here on this plot of land. It was later expanded by King Herod, and so it got larger, but this is where the first and second temples were built here on it's called the Ophel. Ophel simply means higher place, right? So it sat at a higher elevation. So the city of David, I picture this in King Solomon's time. You know, Solomon would have been in his palace. He would have been looking up at the Temple Mount right there. And so what you're seeing at the top of your screen is the Temple Mount. At the bottom of the screen is the archaeological excavations for this city of David. You would walk up, so you'd go from the city of David, you'd walk up these stairs, and what you see here would have been the front entrance to the temple. It is walled up now, and you can't really see it. We'll share pictures of it later on with you. But that would have been the front entrance to the temple. And you'd walk up the stairs, and those stairs are the teaching stairs. Those are the stairs that Jesus taught on during Holy Week. And you can still go to them this day and sit on them. It's just kind of an amazing experience.
It is.
Yeah. Now, when you look at the city of David today, do you understand it when you look at it?
No.
No, you don't. Okay,
There's a lot of walls.
Yeah, a lot of walls, a lot of rocks, which sometimes is a real issue because here in the city of David, they're working on it diligently today. It is considered a national park, but it's privately funded. And they're working on it. There's teams of people, when you go, there's teams of people working today, but you're not really sure what you're looking at yet. They're still starting to come up with identifying certain areas of it. It's really kind of neat because they found all kinds of different artifacts. They found, I know, at least 2 different signet rings for people from the time of David and Solomon. And they also found some other artifacts with people's names on it. And so, like, they even named some of the houses. because they found artifacts with people's name on it. And so it's really kind of interesting. When you look at the city of David today, there's this stepstone wall that's actually over 60 feet tall from the base to the top of it, to the crest of it. It is believed that this is where David's royal palace was. So King David would have been here towards the top of the city of Jerusalem. He would have been at a higher elevation, I think Bathsheba, right? So if he was in his palace looking down at his kingdom or at his city, he could have very easily seen Bathsheba below him. And so he sat on one of the higher elevations, and then just behind that would have been the Temple Mount. Once again, when you go into the city, you can see some of the different rooms and differentiate the rooms, but we don't know what the rooms are or what they were. Sometimes they can, because they'll find pottery and they'll find dishes and that kind of stuff there, but a whole lot we don't. Yeah.
Now this room, we definitely know what it is.
Totally.
Because if you look at that stone, you'll see a hole in the middle, and it's kind of concaved all around. And what do you think it is?
Yeah.
It's the bathroom.
It's David's potty.
It's his potty.
Yeah.
Which none of the other homes, I believe, they actually found this.
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, as they continued excavations, when we first got there was only one. And I just read somewhere they have actually 4 toilets right now. Obviously, in the more wealthy areas. This one here is actually in the palace area. So it's believed that this was the king's toilet. But once again, you sit back and you think, now, they did not have indoor plumbing. I don't know how they drained it. So I really don't know, because at this point they did not have any type of indoor plumbing whatsoever.
But it looks like they tried to make it very comfy.
Yes, I know. So anyway, so it's David's potty. But if you look at the city of David today, once again, you can see some of the different walls, you can see some of the different rooms and that kind of stuff, although you really don't always know what you're looking at. In the excavations today, they continue. And they're continuing, I mean, with great haste, in all honesty. Yeah. So David, we know that the city of Jerusalem sat on top of this hill, right, Zion. We know that it was walled. And when you have if you have a walled city and somebody's going to attack you, what do you need? Well, you got walls, right? What else do you need?
Water.
You need food and you need water, right? Now, they can store food, but water was always an issue. Now, one of the blessings of the old city of Jerusalem was the Cajon Spring. Now, the Cajon Spring, Cajon actually means gusher. The Cajon Spring actually gushes water. It doesn't have a constant flow. Throughout the day, it would just gush water. And so what they did, was they dug these tributaries, and they made a pool. And it was the Pool of Siloam. The Pool of Siloam, it was just not a swimming pool, right? It was just a pool where they collected water, where the people of Jerusalem could go down and get their daily water they need simply to survive, to drink, to wash their pots and their pans, all that kind of good stuff. So it was the water supply for the city. Now, the problem was, the city of David obviously sat on top of a hill. It was walled. The Cajon Spring was down towards the Kidron Valley, outside of the city walls. So once again, you can see this map here of the old city of Jerusalem. You can see King David's palace. You can see the stepped structure that I was talking about, that's 60 feet tall. The Ophel, which means the higher place, and Mount Moriah. Now, the Ophel sits on top of Mount Moriah. Do you remember where Mount Moriah? Do you remember what else took place on Mount Moriah? It was Abraham and Isaac. Okay, so I mean, this is a holy mountain all throughout the scriptures. This is where God took or led Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, was on the top of Mount Moriah, which is the threshing floor, which is where Solomon built the temple. And so that all took place right here. Our dog is down there again. And so anyway, so the Cajon Springs were outside of the city walls. Okay, and so they had to leave the safety of the city to go and collect water. So they began digging these tributaries, and these tributaries would go and they would collect water, as I said, in the Pool of Siloam. Now, what took place was during the reign of King Hezekiah, the Canaanites were, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, were coming to attack Jerusalem. And Hezekiah knew it. And so Hezekiah decided to dig a tunnel system. Well, the tunnel system was actually discovered in 1867 by a royal engineer. Queen Victoria sent this engineer to go and do archaeological excavations, and he discovered what is today called Warren's Shaft. It was a shaft from within the city walls, so it's just basically a tunnel that goes down, and then it goes to the Pool of Siloam, where they can get water, for in the case of a siege. Okay, and so it was discovered in 1867. And so here's a picture going down Warren's shaft. Today it is a tourist, not tourist trap, it's a tourist site that
place
you can
to go
go.
see.
Yeah,
And they actually call it Hezekiahs Tunnel, and it's 1,600 feet long.
yeah,
Is that correct?
that is exactly right.
And it's absolutely amazing. And Paul is what, 5'10"? I'm 5'4" on a good day, and he'd have to duck a couple of times.
Yeah.
And have to turn his shoulders sideways, and it's not that you're going to be stuck anywhere, but it is absolutely amazing. You are in water. Sometimes it's just ankles. Sometimes we were up little past our knees,
Yeah.
mid thighs.
Chilly.
So it's chilly. So you have to have aqua shoes, and they warned us to have a flashlight. Well, us
Did
in
we
good
listen?
old Bird
Yeah.
Slob, we didn't have a flashlight.
I'm not buying a flashlight, so I
No.
didn't.
I think they were $5, so
Yeah.
no. So we took one cell phone and put it on the flashlight mode, and the four of us were like a choo-choo train holding on to each other and going through Hezekiahs Tunnel. But absolutely amazing. And then what happened at that one turn?
So Hezekiah's Tunnel is 1,600 feet. But from where they started to dig to where the Pool of Siloam was, I think it was only like 500 feet. And so the engineer, so what Hezekiah did was he sent a team of individuals down to the Cajon Spring to start digging up to the city. He had a team of individuals digging from within the city walls, digging down. And they actually did it by sound, but they were digging towards each other. Well, they were zigging and zagging all over the place. So the 500 feet was stretched 3 times its size, but they actually met. And in the middle of the tunnel, they met, and it's what's it called today? It's called the Shiloh inscription. So where the teams met, they inscribed into the walls, praising God and giving God the glory.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is during the reign of King Hezekiah, nearly 3,000 years ago. I mean, this is the 7th century BC. I mean, so it is just amazing when you think about it. But when you go through the tunnel, I mean, it is dark. It is pitch black.
Pitch black.
It is, they'd probably never let you do it in the States. But if you go with us in January, we're going to Hezekiah's Tunnel for those who want to go. We never got claustrophobic in any way, but it is a tight squeeze.
It is.
It is a tight squeeze. I got to admit, I don't get nervous a whole lot of times doing stuff like that, and I did get a little nervous going down into it. But I figured, because this is what made me nervous was there was a train of people going through. If somebody panicked in front of you, or if somebody, there's only one way you can go, because you're not going to get everybody to turn around and go back, right? That's kind of what made me nervous about the whole thing, but it is an amazing experience. Well, the Hezekiah's Tunnel lets out into the Pool of Siloam. Now, what's interesting is the Pool of Siloam was just discovered in 2004. Once again, as excavations were taking place in the region, they discovered the pool. And the Pool of Siloam is famous. Actually, in John chapter 9, we hear how Jesus heals a blind man.
As he went along, he saw a blind man from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus. "But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him, "wash in the Pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed. He came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed that he was. Others said, "No, he only looks like him." But he himself insisted, "I am the man."
Yep, and that took place here at the Pool of Siloam. Now, once again, the Pool of Siloam, when I first saw it, I'm going, that's it? I thought it'd be bigger, but it's, because the pools of Bethesda, now the pools of Bethesda are huge. I mean, they're amazing. The Pool of Siloam was just this tiny little pool. So it's not like when we think of pools, obviously we think of recreation, right? No, this was simply a place to gather water, and the water that was used throughout the city. Okay, and so here is, once again, the city of David. And just to the east of the city of David is the Mount of Olives. Another one of my favorite places. I love sitting in the Jewish quarter of town, and we will actually sit there with a glass of wine, and we can see the western wall. And then you can also see the Mount of Olives in the background. So we
It's
want to
all
encourage
lit
you.
up,
Yeah.
and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and a lot of phenomenal things took place on the Mount of Olives. I mean, think of the Ascension. So anyway, so we're going to delve into the Mount of Olives next week. So thank you for joining us as we experience the land of Jesus, and we hope to see you next week. Have a great day. God bless, and live love.